All right, my name is Tanner Ross Gregory. I am literally Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ just means the Messiah translated. Today I'm going to attempt to prove to you that I'm Jesus Christ, as well as each of these key points listed above. All right, so the commands of Moses for people to stone each other to death for various acts such as prostitution or homosexuality, that was a bargain with our primitive urges of violence, that we would more readily adhere to a more ideal form of government. Okay, Jesus Christ's crucifixion was a means by which we were subdued in our willingness to continue proceeding with those violent commands. All right, so I see what Jesus Christ went through. I cannot bring myself to do that any longer. All right, Jesus Christ put forward some commands on marriage. Those were a bargain with our primitive urges of sexual dominion, that we would more readily adhere to a more ideal form of government. Okay, so I can say this woman is my sexual property. I can say this man is my sexual property. In exchange, I will more readily adhere to what you have to say about the government. All right. So what they did to me as Jesus Christ in order to subdue you in your willingness to continue proceeding with those commands is that they programmed me to become obsessed with this woman, made me see her having sex with all these different people for days on end, made me see her getting raped, and then had me running around yelling at people for what they made me see them do. Okay, so that's why they call me the beast. It's like a ram butting its head together with another ram for sexual dominion. All right, so on December the 4th and December the 15th of 2020, I was made to see two separate women pregnant with my son from having had sex with different men. All right, so the date that falls directly in between these dates is December the 10th of 2020. However, because the women were already pregnant when they were revealed to me, and because a woman has her period once a month, and if she misses her period, then she's pregnant, then the date that we're concerned with is November the 10th of 2020. Okay, so in the book of Revelations, it says that the dragon was waiting to consume the child the moment that he was born, who would rule all over the world with an iron scepter, but that the archangel Michael took the woman and the baby into the wilderness to be kept safe for 1,260 days. All right, so 9 months from November the 10th of 2020 is August the 10th of 2021, and 1,260 days from August the 10th of 2021 is Inauguration Day of 2024. All right. Okay, so the dragon represents necessary evil. It had already been explained to me prior to even understanding what these prophecies meant. It was explained to me during my crucifixion stage, and it's cataloged with the events of my crucifixion. That it was explained to me that the dragon represents necessary evil. Okay, so in this case, the reason that the dragon represents necessary evil is because they're saying it would be a form of necessary evil to kill my son before he could inherit all of the power that I will receive to rule over this world as king. Okay, so they actually had me anoint my head with oil during the crucifixion stage, so at some point I will be king. Okay, but I'm not just going to rule over you as king. Okay, so myself and alien intelligence worked for a period of a year to a year and a half developing a very elaborate libertarian constitution. Even had some help from artificial intelligence putting it together and with some of the ideas associated with it as well. But essentially what it just means is that I'm going to be in charge of the government long enough to give you a new, very well-developed libertarian constitution. All right, so the 1,260 days sounds like a countdown, and so you might be asking yourself, what is this a countdown to? Okay, so in the book of Revelation, it says that the Gentiles were allowed to march on the holy city for 42 months, but they've been assigned to the outer court. And then it says that the first beast rules as well for 42 months. Afterward comes the false prophet who makes miracles of fire come out of the sky in full view of the people. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that there's a group of people that's allowed to be here during this 42-month time frame. At the end of it, they have to leave. If they refuse to leave, they're going to be killed with airstrikes. And it was explained very clearly to me that the group that they're talking about is anyone who is not Caucasian. Okay, and just so you know, I mean, they definitely did guide the Caucasian people's evolution. I mean, the only reason that we have white skin has to be because we were kept in a very dark environment, and so the only places on Earth that stay dark most of the time is up towards the polar regions, and so we're talking about an extremely harsh, dark environment. Okay, all right, but so in addition to this, there's a prophecy that says that they're going to use nuclear weapons on California. Well, obviously, airstrikes isn't going to be a practical solution because there's just so many minorities in California. So they're talking about just nuking the whole fucking place. But so the way that it works is it has to do with the way that the 5 months that Noah spent in his ark correlates with the 5 months of scorpion stings in the book of Revelation. And so the 5 months of scorpion stings in the book of Revelation is symbolic of the time that I spent in Wise County Jail immediately after my crucifixion in 2021. Okay, and so God told Noah that he would never place him in the ark again. And so the message is well, if we can get him incarcerated in one of these areas, then it'll be like a mass extinction event. You know, that's how the 5 months correlate. And the government have put this together before I did. The aliens were having me send out messages. They were just repeating themselves over and over again, angering people. And I was sending out all these messages to the mass media and some alternative people too, alternative media, you know, like 50, 60, 100 email addresses. I'm sending them out different stuff that's going on, including this. But it must have made its way to the government. And so what they did was they staged a sex trafficking situation because they want to get people angry in California about what's going on in California, angry enough, you know, to use nuclear weapons. And so the aliens staged a sex trafficking situation, you know, led me to believe that this woman was being sex trafficked and all this stuff was going on. Then I get out to California and there's government agents who are helping to manipulate me into believing that that's what's going on. She was being driven around in like a brand new BMW sports car, like top of the line. I mean, and they were over at Vista Motel, like the cheapest motel in the Los Angeles area. So in the West Los Angeles area anyway. And so I was sending messages to them from the aliens, you got to meet me over here at this certain location. And then they were going to the management of the hotel and being like, okay, we got to situate them in these rooms together. While I was out there, they said a lot about Pizzagate, a lot about, not specifically just the word Pizzagate, but a lot about pizza and a lot about child molestation, a lot of crazy shit. At one point, they even told me, well, they've got to, you know, rape the kids so that they can get aroused and make babies together. And talking about cut little children, like, because the Pizzagate is so crazy. They took all that stuff off of YouTube. It's the craziest shit. And it was like James Alefontis was in it. John Podesta was involved in it. A lot of Democrats. And what they come to find out, and without going into so many details, there's a documentary out there called Pizzagate, Pizzagate by Titus Frost. But without going into so many details, it was just exposing the fact that organized child sex trafficking, even to the point of like, okay, and when you're done, you got to kill the kid. You know what I mean? Like, they got in charge of the human trafficking prosecutions. They got in charge of the Amber Alert system. All these same people connected to these same pizza plates with the sign, the symbol for child molestation and child sex trafficking, according to the FBI, on the front of their fucking buildings. Okay, and they were posting shit on Instagram like murder room, like something in a room, and like had pictures on the wall, little kids chained to toilets and shit, like inside of a pizza restaurant. You know what I'm saying? So they damn well knew what was going on. Okay, so the point is this. It's similar to Egypt, where they go in and they say, okay, those are the slaves, those are the Egyptian slaves right there. Okay, we're going to come in because you're not going to let them go and conduct all these plagues. We're going to send in the locusts. They came in, they killed children, they did all this stuff. And then immediately afterward, they introduced them to a new, very elaborate system of government. And bear in mind, this new constitution is like 500 to 700 pages long. Okay, so what they really want to do, just to like put the cherry on top and just be totally done and never have to think about it ever again, is to say, well, we are going to bomb and nuke, you know, California because of what you're doing with child sex trafficking, and then people will be galvanized to the new system of government. And so it will work, but man, crazy, you know, nuking that place off the face of the earth. So I think personally, and I don't know if I should be saying this or not, but I personally believe that probably the biggest reason why they're doing it is because airstrikes, I mean, to get all the minorities out of California with airstrike, it just really wouldn't work. But Who knows? Maybe they're doing it for galvanization as well. So, but either way, in addition to that, there is a prophecy that has to do with placing the police in jail. And so the suicide boys are the two olive trees from the book of Revelation. And so in the book of Revelation, it says that the two olive trees will prophesy for 1,260 days. All right. So the Suicide Boys released an album on August the 13th of 2021 called The Long-Term Effects of Suffering. All right. And so on the album cover, someone is throwing up blood into a metal toilet. They're wearing a jumpsuit. There's people behind bars. Okay, and so what's the message? The message is that, well, somebody found out he was a police officer and they poisoned his food, so we're talking about police in jail. All right, so 1,260 days from August the 13th of 2021 is 3 days after Inauguration Day. So I believed that it was going to be martial law and that they were going to start doing all this crazy stuff. I wouldn't even have any hand in it, like it's going to somebody else, and they're going to put the police in jail. I was just really concerned. So I started working on my book diligently every day and every other night for like 2 months straight. I only slept every other night. Okay, so once Inauguration Day came along, I started sending out the finalized book to thousands of churches and church members and church attendees, all these different email addresses that I could, scrap off the internet. And but 3 days after Inauguration Day came and went, and there was no martial law. The police were in jail. I didn't know what was going on. So I looked into the Old Testament, and in the Old Testament, when it very first talks about the two olive trees, it talks about the final capstone is in the hand of Zerubbabel. Okay, and it also talks about this flying scroll that's going on. So what the message is that the book would be finalized and sent out to all these people by the certain date and time, and that's going to set a certain series of events in motion that will end result in the police going to jail. Okay, and presumably because of what they've done with the war on drugs, the criminalization of prostitution, it's absolutely fucking obscene. We have more people locked up than any country in the world. And granted, the statistics actually have gotten better, like over the last 10 years or so. I would say that they've decreased the overall rate of incarceration by about like 25%. But man, we're still so far out there on prison population. It's absolutely insane. And what it is slavery. That's what it is. It's kidnapping. It's motherfucking slavery. It's motherfucking kidnapping, and it's motherfucking slavery. And what it creates is a black market where people end up killing each other, end up dead. They go to jail for homicide because they've done something and that's just how it works. I mean, look, there's got to be an intermediary there. If it's your property and you can't call the police, then people end up killing each other. That's human nature. You know what I'm saying? So it creates all these extremely violent black markets. What I'm saying is that even with all that being said, I think that they're probably going to get some galvanization out of this. You know what I mean? It's these people did you wrong. Watch what I can do. Divine retribution. Here's your new constitution. Oh, hell yeah, I like you. You kicked all my enemies' asses. You know what I mean? And so I think that's probably how that works. And just to kind of sum it up, they did say to me, because I was arguing on their behalf. I was basically like, okay, so, I mean, can we offer them like a good deal? Can we give them like 2 years at the most, and then just kind of benchmark that off of whoever has the most amount of time that they've caused in incarceration, and then just kind of work it like that? And they just told me that it was up to me, so I don't really know how that's going to work out. But there's verses in the book of Revelation that says, he who has led into captivity shall be led into captivity. He who has killed shall be killed. That was the original translation if you look at the King James Version. Okay, the new one, I think they fucked that up on purpose because the government and power figured out what they were trying to say. You know what I mean? But as well, they said to me, "Death, Tanner. I want you to give them death." You know what I mean? Like in a gravelly old man voice, "Death, Tanner. I want you to give them death." You know what I mean? It's like, and when they did this, it was like a single galaxy in the middle, and just total blackness outside. Like, I'm showing you the whole galaxy here because I'm God, and I'm God telling you God is telling you that I want you to give him death, 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 death. You know what I mean? So it's probably not smart of me to go around saying that I'm going to carry it out, but I don't know. I've had my head around it for a long time. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll try to do the least that I think that's the most Jesus thing I can do. Like, try to give you the best deal I can, and then they're going to tell me what the way it has to be, and then I'm going to have to do what they say, because if not, they can fuck me up. They've done it. So